We are live, and I'm setting my alarm so that I can get Yaime Uber. What's up, everybody? So, we have come out with Garage Strength Program Design, and my whole goal for today, I'm writing some notes here, is that I want to lay out, first of all, how I think through full-blown program design. I'm having my coffee with you guys, so I'm going to give you a little cheers. I already had what did I have this morning? I had my red eye. It's like my go-to, a red eye. So I think the biggest thing that I've struggled with in training and in coaching, especially when I first got into strength and conditioning, this is back when I was in 7th and 8th grade, was I would go into the gym and not really understand, what's up, Steve? Not really understand what I should do. What exercise should I start with? And so, when you're in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, or you're just beginning to strength train, one of those factors ends up being like, I might do something ridiculous like preacher curls first, or bench press, or bench press with like a deadlift, something just absolutely outrageous. And then as I sort of grew up and I started to get trained by my high school strength coach, I started to see, okay, wow, there's some sense, there's some thought process to this actual layout. And then over time, that became more and more dialed in, and then just got to the point where it was where that was, all right, this is what our goals are. These are the sports that we're training for. And then if we're training for a specific sport, we have to look at the time of year. And that sort of goes back to what we discussed last week on Friday. And Friday's live was that we went over everything related to, identifying sports, identifying the athlete that we're dealing with. What type of athlete are they? Are they type 1, which is Zen athlete? Are they a type 2, which is a social athlete? Are they type 3, which is exuberant? And we had a couple comments on our first periodization video, which even said, can you guys go more into, yes, we're going to go over how to design a program. Can you guys go more into the thought process behind the athlete reactive analysis? And so if I'm trying to lay everything out, the main thing that we have to do first is identify the sport. Second is identify the type of athlete. Third is identify what that athlete needs to be successful. Okay, and so one of the best parts around this is like I'm going to go right into one on page 125. And if you look at this, this is in the Garage Strength Program Design. If you look at this, this is going to show like, okay, during the exposure phase, the exposure phase would look like this. We're going to have our technical coordination exercise, then we're going to have our absolute strength movements, we're going to have our hypertrophy movements, and then our accessory. And so I wanted to go over real quickly how I would lay that out using our book, right? So if I would go exposure, and this would all be based off of the exposure phase, okay? And if you remember back to our video that came out on Sunday, that's going to be the high volume phase. I might have to move this here. Let's try and get this. So that's going to be the high volume phase. That's the phase when people first start to really get into training. Okay, that's the phase that, we got to make sure that I sign Steve Wonderland's book. I don't know if I did that yet, by the way. I don't think he's in this stack. Sorry, Steve. I just wanted to... Dane, you're by far the best at representing GS method, even if you didn't pull off the pig squat. That pig squat was absolutely crazy, by the way. That was insane. But so what I'm doing here is that if I use, our tables, we've got over 75 tables on 50 pages of the books, okay, of Garage Strength Program Design. So if I use this example and I go like this, exercise 1A, exercise 2A and 2B, this is where it gets really easy to do this, okay? So we can go through here and look at it and go technical coordination, and I'm going to show you how we make the progression, okay? I think what's so cool with how we do this is it ends up being like this spoon-fed system. And so all of our coaches will come in here. They all learn identification of the sport. They all learn how to identify the athlete. They all learn how the athletes adapt during different phases. They all learn the energy systems and the strength characteristics. Remember, that's going to be blast impulse. That's going to be sustained impulse, power 15 plus, power endurance, classic endurance, all those things have to be thought through when we're testing the athletes. And then we can do this real easily, is that now we can go into the book, right? And let's say we just have accessory here. Accessory DTC skilled. Okay. So now, because of the way we lay out the book, we've got all the different types of sports. So you got combat sports. Okay, that's MMA, judo. We got field strength. That would be football, lacrosse, field hockey. We got court/handheld. So that might be a quarterback or a tennis player, a badminton player, a javelin thrower to a point. Then we got power sports. So that would be, like a shot putter, right? Offensive lineman even would fall into that power sport. Defensive lineman would fall into that power sport. Then you could get into another, let's say jumps. Okay, now we have a long jumper or a pole vaulter. Or a basketball player, a volleyball player. Now we can start to see how that would be laid out. And we lay out all those sport types in the book. And then we give you the template. So now I'm going to show you, you can take the template, which would have technical coordination, okay? And this might show, in the book, it's going to show reps and sets, and it's even going to show rest period. And so if you go back to that example I provided earlier in the beginning, was the biggest thing I struggled with was, what exercise should I do? And then what exercise order should I go in? And then what kind of rest period should I do? And then we can even talk about how you should be loading that. Okay, remember, exposure phase, high volume. So if we're doing a technical coordination movement, this will be 1A. During the exposure phase, what we go into is, this should be an easier exercise. Okay, and in this specific example, I'm going to show you here. This specific example, the sport type that we're going to be using is going to be, okay, so we're on page 125. So this is going to be for field strength. So we got Brandon George here. He's a starting linebacker at University of Pittsburgh. So he's our model. And we're going to get into the exposure phase for field strength. So that first exercise, technical coordination, now we got to remember, is going to be something easier in the exposure phase. So let's say power clean, right? That's pretty easy movement. And I wanted to share some thoughts with you guys I've been having lately, even more so about weightlifting exercises, is that I think some of the best stuff behind, let's see if you guys can. No, Steve, you can do two. You can 100% do two. And most of the time we would do two exercises here. Just for this example, I'm going to show you this. So for a power clean, let's say the reps are 4 sets of 4, rest period. Let's say the rest period is about 1:30, okay? Because remember, exposure phase, easy exercise, higher volume, because it's an easier movement and it's higher volume, a little bit lower on the rest period because we're not trying to push crazy weight. So if you understand the phase and you understand the lift and you understand the sport and you understand the goal, that determines the exercise that we're going towards, okay? So we're providing sort of like that spoon-fed system. Now, absolute strength. This could be something easy, very, very easy. A back squat. Just do a back squat. The quickest way to get gains is to just increase your back squat all the time. If we get kids that come in the door and they can back squat, let's say, 200 pounds. We push those kids to back squat 300 pounds. Well, now their clean just went up 80 pounds as well. Now their bench press is going up by about 60 pounds. Now their snatch is going to go up by about 40 pounds. And so the easiest thing that we can do during the exposure phase, especially with high school kids, is just get them to back squat. Okay, so let's say back squat, let's say 4 sets of 5, 1 by 9, and then the accessory here could be something easy. We want to work, let's say we just want to work on glute strength. They need to be able to cut. They're in field strength, so they got to be able to cut here, and we'll go side band walks. This is easy, very easy. Okay, so let's go 5 sets, 5 by 9 each side, okay? Now what we can do, and this rest period is going to be about 2 minutes before we go to the back squat, about 1 minute before we get into the side band walks. Okay, so we took, again, I'm going to keep hammering this. We took the blueprint, we took the phase, we understood the sport, and then we just keep mining down and down and down. This would be a leg day 1. Okay, that's the other thing. If we look at workout splits, if you remember back to the exposure phase video that we just put up on Sunday, we've got leg power day, okay, upper body power day, athlete day, impulse day, and remember, impulse day. No one else is talking about impulse-based training. That's going to be the big thing. And then we get into hypertrophy day. So now, the accessory, let's say accessory, we've got field strength. So let's say one of the big things is that we've got to focus on hamstrings. We've got to have linemen, we've got to have running backs, we've got to have linebackers, we've got to have D-backs that have swole hamstrings. So let's go Nordic curls, okay? Real simple. Nordic curls, 4x9, okay? Slower eccentric. Now, dynamic trunk control. This could be rotational back extension. Easy. It's an easy movement that's going to train dynamic trunk control. You're sideways on a back extension and you're just rotating. So you're getting a little bit lower back. It's almost like standing posterior twist, but a little bit easier because you're hooked in. And then that skilled strength. So skilled strength during the exposure phase will be easier. So skilled strength movement here could be something as simple as like a band. Okay, so if we're holding a band here, I'm gonna jump towards the band, land, jump out of the band, cut, and punch. Just to think about if I'm training as a linebacker or a lineman, a rotational, explosive rotational punch. Okay, so a banded, let's just call it banded rotational punch. Okay, and that could be, because we're doing it's almost like a reflexive movement, we'll just do 4 on each side. And now the goal would be, when we're doing this banded rotational punch, we're feeling what we did here, and we're really lighting up our hamstrings right there. And so the big factor behind understanding where to start comes back to, what sport are you training for, okay? What are the strength characteristics? And that goes back to everything that we fill out in the book for you is understand blast impulse, understand sustained impulse, understand power endurance, power 15 plus, classic endurance, okay? Also, understand means of coordination, so chaos coordination, transient speed, max speed, okay? And understand the workout splits in a week, okay? So just do a back squat, Dane 2023, absolutely. That should be my slogan, just do a back squat and then cultivate your power. Okay, so this is how easy it becomes. And we've got those 50 pages inside the book. We got 5 hours of lecture where we go through every single thing with combat, with field strength, with power sports. We give you these examples and we show you those workout splits. So it's a 5 hours of lecture that teaches you all this stuff in depth. So now I just wanted to cover that real quickly. I'm going to take a sip of my green coffee here. I've got about 7 grams of fiber in here with some of my AG1. New sponsor of the channel for at least a video. And then we're going to get into some of your questions. But it's also identifying that exercise type. And this stuff's going to get more and more easy for you guys to comprehend. And that's the whole goal. Is it's like, this stuff's challenging, especially for a newbie. And I just remember back to, when I was younger, I remember that for a while, my strength coach in high school had me doing a bench press after a back squat. And this is when I was in like 11th grade. And so I could back squat, probably like 315 for like a set of 8 when I was a junior in high school. And I remember, so I would do like sets of 8, crazy stuff. Like we would do 10 by 10s quite a bit. And I actually remember this very vividly. I went on so maybe what might have been my senior year. I went on a recruiting trip to Kent State for track. So I was getting recruited by Kent, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Penn State, Penn, all these schools, right? And I did 10 by 10 on back squats. And I just remember this vividly because I could barely walk when I went on my visit to Kent. But then he had us doing a bench press after my back squat. And I had bench pressed on a Sunday the prior week with my brother. And we did this at my garage, at the original Garage Strength. And if you go back on YouTube, you can watch like Garage Times. If you just type in Garage Times, Garage Strength, you'll see the old gym from like 2008. That's where I grew up training. And so my brother and I had benched on a Sunday, and I had hit like 315 for like a set of 6. Again, this is when I was like, so I probably would have been like 16 or 17. Then I did the back squat workout about 5 days later. But then when I was benching, he had us benching after the back squat. I was benching like 275 and dying. And I remember thinking, like, why am I getting crushed by this? And so I had this 6 hour drive out to Kent, Ohio. My dad took me on the visit. It was actually right after 9/11. There was just crazy stuff going on in the world at that time. 2001 was the fall of 2001. And I'm telling my dad, I was like, Dad, I couldn't bench 275 yesterday for more than like 6 reps. But on Sunday, Brooks and I, my brother's name's Brooks and I did a session, and I had benched 315 for 6. And the biggest thing my dad said to me was, well, what did you do before you benched? And I was like, well, I back squatted. He's like, well, why would you back squat before you bench? I was like, I don't know. That's just what was on the docket. That's what I had to do. And he's like, well, what did you do before you back squat? I was like, we didn't do anything. He's like, you didn't do any cleans or anything before? No, I didn't do anything. He's like, so why would you squat and then bench afterwards and try to hit like a peak bench press? It doesn't make any sense. And that's where I was, right? And that's where a lot of you guys are, and that's where a lot of coaches are, is they'll put exercises in the wrong order, or they'll put movements that actually will fatigue and really hurt the next exercise. But in all reality, this is like a journey. So when we go through programming, we've got the exposure phase, we got comprehension phase, we've got ascension, we've got the summit, okay? We have realization. We have all that stuff laid out for periodization, but this is actually even what we're trying to focus on inside of a workout. This is exposing you, okay? Technical coordination. We're going to learn how to implement a large amount of speed, a large amount of impulse, okay? And even how quickly can we compress? How quickly can we fold up and catch that bar with a large amount of tension? That's one of the biggest factors why power cleans help improve agility, okay? But this is exposing you, and then this is where you're going to start to comprehend. All right, I'm trying to build strength, okay? I'm trying to build that ability to have more strength and larger muscles, okay? And then during this phase, I would even say during a workout, this would be exposure phase of the workout. This would be the comprehension. And then here's where we're going to get into the ascension, summit, and realization, because we're going to do some more accessories to build. So this would be the accessories to build that posterior chain. This would be another accessory to improve dynamic trunk control. This would be the realization point of the actual workout. So not only is it a periodization model that's macro, it's also micro. And so then you're going to avoid having those examples that I just provided you where it's, why am I squatting before a bench and I'm dying on the bench press? You know, we want to use something like this to potentiate us throughout the workout. And we can even go pretty heavy on a technical coordination movement, and it's not going to crush us on the next absolute strength movement because our neural drive's awake. And that's something we've shared in Sam Mattis has jerked 500 pounds in a workout, and then he's hit a PR on bench press after he hit the PR on the technical coordination movement. So that's the benefit of this style of training. And that's the whole thing with Garage Strength program design, is that, you know, every single, I had said this last week, I want to get a copy of my book with every person signing this. So like, this is Nick Singleton on the cover, right? Just go on eBay and look for Nick's cards, football cards right now. He's going to be, I think he could be a first round draft pick. Okay, so if I could get Nick to sign this, right, and then I just flip to another page. I got Javen Williams, 5-star recruit. Okay, he's at Penn State right now. I've got Sam Mattis. There he is. He's an Olympian. And I think like there's Brandon George again. They're the starting linebacker. There's Haley Riker. Cooper Lutz. He was a starting running back at Syracuse and then Vanderbilt. Okay, so Jacob Horst, two-time world championship team member. All of this stuff, all of this experiments and all the lessons here was built out on these athletes and created these athletes. It's a conveyor belt of success. And so that's what I wanted to share with you guys, so you don't have the same experience that I had. And you can just develop, you can develop yourselves, but you can also implement this system of periodization, the parabolic periodization model for sports, which in turn is going to help you just dominate in various sports. And you can identify it and make it easier so that you just have this plug and play system. So I'm going to go into these questions now. Ryan Cross is asking, but what if it's a sport that doesn't necessarily have positions, as in group sessions? How would you improve each? Ryan, what sport doesn't have positions? If you're in a group session, I mean, are you talking like track? But I would still break it down into the actual, their actual event status. That I need some clarity on that. Cannot wait to apply this yet. Robert, I think you might have posed a question that we answered on the Masters of Sport. Somebody had asked some questions around how we would train soldiers that we answered last night's Masters of Sport. I also think Kennedy Jones. Do you think sociopaths are more likely to do well in combat sports? It's funny. Dana White and even Henry Cejudo talks about this, where um, you see, you remember when John Jones got into a whole bunch of trouble. One, he got into drug issues, but also um, he had those issues of abuse and stuff. It's like everybody was blown away. I can't believe John Jones would do this. It's like, dude, he's the greatest fighter of all time. They fight for a living. Like they're a little on they're a little on edge. They might have like some issues with emotional regulation. So do I think sociopaths? I don't know necessarily about sociopaths, but I do think fighters are generally they're like pole vaulters. They're a little on the wild edge. David, thanks. Hope it's doing well out in Peaburg. During the Masters of Sport podcast, I remember you describing the rep scheme being really high in the exposure phase. In exposures, the absolute strength block still 4 to 5 reps or higher. I would go higher, Miles. I would go higher with that. So, you see 4x5 and 1x9. That's where you could go. You could do like 3 sets of 5. You could do a set of 9, a set of 12. Especially on presses, we would go quite a bit higher with that. On the upper body day. On a leg day, the lowest I would go during the exposure phase with reps on the leg day would probably be 5. That'd be the lowest I would go. A while back, I asked some advice on my AC joint. That's good, Johnny. I'm glad it helped. So what you're saying is Dane developed this whole periodization scheme because one day he did benches after a squat. CR, that's great. Yeah, I don't I mean it's not that simple, but I think the biggest thought process that I had was, and also that was more so my dad. And back then, I should show you some of the books I have now that back then when we would go to like the grocery store, my dad would let us buy like Flex magazine. I wish I still had some of those, and we had like Powerlifting USA. It's funny because I talk a lot of trash on powerlifting, but some of the first magazines I got was Powerlifting USA, Flex, so all the bodybuilding stuff. And really it came down to my dad. My dad had a big impact on how we saw training. But then he also sort of got us into understanding that like powerlifting and bodybuilding are very good tenets for performance, but that there was other means of performance. And an example here would be he was always supportive of how we would look at training, so much so that then when I stopped playing baseball, I got into shot putting. One of the things I did, if you guys know who Werner Gunther is, and we've talked possibly about doing some reacts to Werner Gunther's training, but one example of what I did was I got access from a world champion Highland Games thrower who was in Easton at the time. His name's Paul Ferenczi. He actually passed away during COVID. But he brought down all these videos, and some of the Werner Gunther training videos were in that VHS cassettes that he gave us. And we got that translated. It was in French. We got a French teacher to translate it. We took notes, and we actually ran the system for about 18 weeks before I went to college. But one of the things that I learned was my dad had a good understanding of bodybuilding and powerlifting, but he didn't fully understand the performance, but he wanted to learn more. And for me, that's what we were doing. When I was in 11th grade, 12th grade, translating that Werner Gunther video and then learning on can throws, learning back in the day from all these other elite level athletes. That's sort of what, the bench and the squat scenario that I provided was like, wow, that was stupid. Why did we do that? But it took me a decade to really play around and run a crazy experiments. And maybe I should just give you this little secret. If you guys pick up the Garage Strength Program Design, after you purchase it, about a day or two later, we're going to send you a free program that we did. It's called Secret Strength Experiments, and it's not on the website. It used to be for sale. This is like 4 years ago, but it's an example of all the experiments I ran to sort of come to this conclusion, to sort of build out garage strength program design. So Secret Strength Experiments, if you pick this up, it's $99. You get the book, you get 5 hours of lecture, and then we're going to send you Secret Strength Experiments on the back end. So you could see some of the crazy experiments I did to try and figure out what's the best way to set up a training system so that we can train strength, we can train impulse, we can train power output, and at the same time, we can have technical development in the specific sport. Because that's another factor, is like a lot of people forget when you're a strength coach, there's a technical aspect to every single sport. So if we're doing too much in the weight room, we can have a pretty negative impact on what we're doing out on the field, and that can have that can really degenerate your performance. Steve, that should be on the way. I'll write that down, that we got to check in on that. Yeah, you should be getting that, Steve. Got you. Oh, you got my boxing program. This is Emilio X. He got the boxing program. He loves it. Please talk about a shoulder protocol for discus and chop up back of the shoulder tendon pain. Okay, so back of the shoulder tendon pain. What I would do, I'd do slow band pull aparts. I would do slow dumbbell external rotations, like 10-second eccentrics. I would even do things like pull aparts with your palms up. I would do YTWs. So do that to potentiate your training session and make sure you're hitting that 2 to 3 days a week. But it's the slow eccentric, and where you have the pain is where you need to work through the slowest. And that's going to be eccentric tendinopathies. Okay, so that's where that's going to help alleviate that issue and get more strength. Rudy, we've got a basketball player video coming out in the next 6 weeks, I promise. Actually, it might be less than 6 weeks. I promise you that we will have a basketball video coming out, and we have another basketball video coming out in the next couple of weeks on peak strength. Hayden bought the Rebellion linebacker and running back program, and I was seeing how much should that program bring up my speed and strength. That stuff should help quite a bit. It depends on where you're at, but you should see an incredible drop in your 40 time just because you're going to get more explosive, and you should be able to increase that unilateral strength. Simon White, can I just focus on absolute strength? So let's go through this. This is a great question. Simon wants to increase his vertical jump, okay? So based off of the principles that you're going to get out of the book, and based off the principles in the 5 hours of lecture, vertical jump is blast impulse, okay? So if blast impulse is the number one strength characteristic for vertical jump, we've got to train exercises that train blast impulse. So there's going to be exercise here. Technical coordination will improve blast impulse. And then we got to look at this, skilled strength. Skilled strength will improve blast impulse, okay? Vertical jump is blast impulse. This, okay? Skilled strength. Under that, plyometrics. So under there, plyometrics are going to improve your blast impulse. So what's the supporting factor? If these are the two main exercise types that will improve blast impulse, the third type that's going to be supporting is going to be absolute strength, okay? So if you're doing hang cleans, or you're doing hang snatches, or you're doing two-box snatches or two-box cleans, and you're improving your skilled strength and you're improving your power clean, right? Your absolute strength, so back squats and front squats, is also going to lead to a drastic improvement in that blast impulse. That's going to be front squats, back squats, single leg squats. I recommend doing front squats, double bounce front squats, double bounce back squats. That's going to drastically improve your blast impulse for the vertical jump. I would even go into doing things like pin squats as you get closer to that peak, Simon. So that's going to be that main factor. Ryan Kelly's asking, how realistic is it to expect gains at 40? Am I stuck maintaining? Ryan, I don't think you're stuck maintaining. I think what you've got to do, though, is pick what your focus needs to be. So let's say, in our deadlift video where we said, is just deadlift, do I love my love or hate relationship with deadlift, right? If I have a love or hate relationship with deadlift, I've got to call Jaime's Uber, so bear with me while I do this. If I have a love or hate relationship with deadlift, okay, the main thing is for you at the age of 40, Ryan, you need to understand, all right, I've got to prioritize my training to build out my deadlift. And what I would recommend is spending 8 weeks on accessory work and strength work to really build the foundation for your deadlift, and then another 8 weeks really pushing your deadlift to a max point. So you've got to just spend more time and invest that time into the overall development. And then that's going to come back to a gain. At the age of 40, you can still make gains. It's just something that you have to spend more time developing. Okay, you have to, when you're younger, you can look at a deadlift bar and you increase your deadlift. If you're 22 years old, 25 years old, I can just look at a bench press and get stronger. I can just go in and do dumbbell bench and I'm going to get stronger. But when you're 40, you have to be more precise with that selection. Suck Deep, buddy. Got your course the day of release along with the weightlifting add-on and 20 experiments course. Okay, so Suck Deep got that Secret Strength Experiments. So far, it's great. I appreciate that. The Secret Strength Experiments has a lot of crazy stuff in there. I'm glad you picked that up. I believe I signed your copy. Last night we were doing our podcast, Masters of Sport. If you guys haven't checked that out, head over to Masters of Sport on YouTube. We were signing it live last night. Hi, I'm playing flag football and wanted to know how you would alter a tackle football gym program to be suited more for flag. Yeah, so flag football to me would be more similar to training for, let's say, I gotta send this to you, I make quick. Flag football for me would be how I would train like a lacrosse player. Okay, so we've got Ryan Tarafenko. He's one of the best lacrosse players, a D1 All-American at Ohio State. He's on our programming right now. He's a professional lacrosse player now. He just made the Team USA for the World Cup for lacrosse. So we train him more like a free safety. Okay, so more like someone like Troy Polamalu, Sean Taylor, those savages, like those guys that were just total animals. He's a little bit leaner. He doesn't need to be as big as a linebacker, but he still needs to be pretty strong and pretty explosive. So that's what I would do with your flag football. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so Noah and Elena's Adventures in Family Fun. Have you ever thought about doing a clinic class for people looking to open their own youth training gym? We do have like business consultations available, but it's usually you have to email us and then you get a quote back. It's sort of like the one-off stuff that we'll do. But I would consult with people for that, but it won't be cheap. Can single leg squat training improve your front and back squat? It can, but there's a lag of about 4 weeks when you hit a big single leg squat to carry over to the back squat or the front squat. It's about a 4-week lag. For O lifting, how many total reps of technique exercises, for example, a tall snatch or power snatch, should I program before a full snatch session? I don't like doing that. What I like doing is our warm-ups are very technically focused. I like setting up variation days or technical days and then competitive days. Steve said he should get a 30-minute call with you. I'd say I do about 1 or 2 of those a week. Will this add to my books? Yes. So the biggest thing here, Audacious, it's 5 hours of lecture and it's like creates a super cohesive discussion around the whole system. How do we look at the exposure phase, and then how do we factor out each and every single template? And I would say this, like on our other books, where there's a lot more theory, whereas we have a ton of theory in here, but then we have the actual sport type. Each sport type has its own system template, and then each workout day by phase. Okay, so you have the phases in here, and then you can see when you're starting to peak people what you remove. So you have like the workout splits. Then you can get into strength and power. That's all American Tamon Johnson competed at the Olympic trials. So this would be this is Gwiz here. That's actually Gable Stevenson. That's the last time he beat Gable before Gable became the Olympic champ. Again, this is a lot more precise. And a good example would be, so South Dakota State just got qualified 7 guys to NCAAs. They just ran through the whole periodization model this past 18 to 20 weeks. Okay, so that's like, this is much more specifically designed around applied work. There's a ton of theory in the beginning. This is what I'd say. It's about 190 pages if I remember correctly. I've read it about 3 times, okay? What I would recommend here is you read the theory and you really try to understand and grasp the theory, and then the plug and play becomes the templating. So we've got 75 templates in the back over 50 pages. Now you can use that template to implement everything. And when you're watching the 5 hours of video courses, it just creates a much more cohesive thought process around how the system works. Kennedy Jones, do you think functional bodybuilding is possible? I wouldn't call it functional bodybuilding. I would call it athletic muscle. Tell me Sam Mattis doesn't have a bodybuilding build. Jake Horse, bodybuilding build. These dudes are shredded, but they're athletic. And we talk about this. What is athletic muscle? Athletic muscle is muscle that coordinates like an information superhighway. Okay, it's got 30 different highways on it, and it all is flowing very, very smoothly. That's athletic muscle. Okay, that makes you a functional bodybuilder per se, but really it's about athletic muscle, and that's the 3 pillars that we're building off of with Garage Strength Program Design. Are you getting more athletic? Are you getting stronger? Are you getting more muscle? Okay, I would argue that. I'm an offensive, defensive lineman and a thrower. My bench is only 245. Bucket Outdoors, 5 days a week, 50 clap push-ups every single night. You'll get to 315 quickly. Mass. This is my coffee. I like my favorite coffee is going to be like Ethiopian. It's a little bit lighter blend. You got a little bit more pop to it. Yaime's getting picked up. Have you guys seen Yaime? Dude, she's an animal. Yesterday, she did 8 sets of high hang power snatches at 95 kilos. Could you do a year-long program with that book for football? And is it easy? Yes. So let's go. I'll show you right here. Okay. So this would be, who's that? Artem, R2. R2 asked if we could do a year-long program. So this would be how you would lay out a year-long program. Okay. What's sport? Let's say football. Football is going to be under field strength. Okay. So this is on page 120, R2. And if you buy the course for 5 hours of lecture, you get this book for free. So that's the deal to get. If you want a full year of programming, you don't want to get peak strength, which you should still get peak strength. What you can do then is you get in here and you lay out exposure phase. Okay, so exposure phase would be built out. Okay, and then what you're doing here during the field strength is you go page 125. Teaches you how to lay out everything on exposure phase. Page 127 teaches you the workout splits for the week based off of exposure phase. So you go lower body power, upper body power, athlete day, speed work, impulse day, hypertrophy. So you can use this to then go back to this, and you can lay out the full program for an entire year. You can do that 2-3 times over. So it's it has the keys, but that also goes back to understanding the theory is going to be key. And, even watching the 5 hours, you've got to watch the 5 hours to provide that basic understanding. And if you don't want to do that, obviously pick up peak strength. Okay. Yeah, high hang power snatch, 95 kilos. I have a video here. Check it out, though. It's just crazy. It's just and a lot of people, the non people in weightlifting will be like, oh, she's got bad technique. It's dude, we're not training to be world champion. We're not training to be world champion caliber weightlifters. We're training to be world champion discus throwers. And the funny thing is, she's probably strong enough that she could potentially win that. So I'll show you Yaime here. 95 kilos, and she's got a 2 pump into a snatch. Watch this. Boom. Boom. So what's that training? Okay, so the thought process is we can go back to she's in a power sport, okay? She's in a power sport, so it's predominantly going to be blast impulse. So when we think about if she has a really high level blast impulse, that means she's going to be able to sling the discus a lot better, okay? So what trains blast impulse? Technical coordination. What else? We already talked about this with the vertical jump. Skilled strength movements, okay? What's supporting? The supporting behind blast impulse, absolute strength. So we got to go down that checklist and make sure that if we're training a sport that is blast impulse focused, like throwing, we've got to have technical coordination. We've got to have skilled strength, and that could be through plyometric, reflexive work, whatever. And we've got to have that supporting role of the absolute strength. Okay, we're basically laying out this this long-term plan. It's sort of like creating a theater, really, is what it is. Also, I did want to show somebody was DMing me the other day. Make sure you guys follow me on Ghostface D Miller. Somebody was DMing me. They wanted to see the Olympic stuff, so I'm gonna put that up there so you guys can see, because they want to do that for their own athlete. Part of me is like, dude, just freaking zoom in on the picture. But yeah, Jaime got third at the Olympics in 2021. What do you suggest for 9 to 13 football players? So 9 to 13, age or the number of players that you actually have. So age, again, basic movements. And I know I've talked about exposure phase, comprehension phase, ascension phase, all that stuff. We also have to think about that with the micro aspect. The exposure, comprehension, ascension, and summit all inside the micro factor. But now, if we're looking at a career, if we have 9 to 13-year-old athletes, they're in the exposure phase of their career. Okay, so we've got to do easy work, power cleans, front squats, back squats, teach them how to use very, very basic exercises to get stronger. And if you have a large group of people, 9 to 13, Daniel Mitchell, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Boom. If we have a large group of people, football players should be running track. So if you have 9 to 13 people, let's say I would break that up into 3 groups of 4 or 4 groups of 3. 2 groups are going on leg power day. 2 groups are going on upper body power day. Okay, 9 to, I would just say, keep it simple. Teach them how to clean, teach them how to snatch, do it a lot. My son's 11, and all he does is power snatch, no feet snatch, power clean, behind the neck jerk, bench press, pull-ups. That's all he's doing. A lot of that stuff. Hey, Key, boom, thank you for that. Super chat, sand volleyball now, played college football, I'm 32. Cleans feel like they're tearing my wrists apart. Am I too old to get back into this? Key, if they don't feel well, I would try and loosen up your lats, do some prayer stretch, loosen up your wrists, loosen up your triceps. But also, one thing that you could do while you're doing that for about 4 to 6 weeks, let's say you're on the Peak Strength app. So if I'm on Peak Strength, okay, I could take that and say, all right, instead of, Steve, boom, thank you so much. Instead of doing those cleans, okay, we could do like high hang power snatch. What the heck? Oh man, I was going to show you. I got logged out of my Peak Strength. I don't know why I got logged out of my Peak Strength, so I don't want to re-log in now. But Key, what I would say there, I was going to show you how you can replace the power clean with like a snatch. What I would recommend is do like a high hang snatch, and that's going to have a lot less stress on your wrists. So you spend 4 to 6 weeks working your mobility to improve your clean catch, and you could do front squats while improving that mobility, but the technical coordination movements that you're doing would be a snatch movement or a jerk movement, which won't put a lot of stress on your wrists. That's how I would recommend going about that. Steve, thanks for all the support. We love it. Make sure you're talking to Caitlin about getting that Secret Strength Experiments. I've got to make sure I sign your book. I did want to share this with you guys too. It's pretty cool when we get people like Olympians and world championship Diamond League level athletes that are buying our content. That's when it's like they're buying our books. We got a couple orders from some blue checkers. I think that's pretty neat. I'm a 14-year-old power lifter and I struggle with ankle flexibility. This is from Will Hillman. Will, replace your deadlift with power cleans and full cleans, front squats, and snatches. Okay, that's going to help improve your deadlift. I would do a lot of ankle work, digging your Achilles into a kettlebell. I would do a lot of work around improving that dorsiflexion, even squatting on slant board, and do high bar. Okay, deal with that now. Try to really loosen up those ankles now so you get good dorsiflexion when you're squatting. How should a high school wrestler wanting to get a couple of weight classes up go in the off season? First, you got to eat more. We've got a lot of content on how to gain weight on Garage Strength and on Peak Strength with wrestlers. Wrestlers, you got to eat more, okay? 2, you got to do big compound movements, more incline benching, more back squats, more front squats, more single leg squats, more cleans. Higher rep cleans help gain weight a lot. Do sets of 4, do sets of 5, and then eat a lot. Um, okay, Steve, you got it. All right, boom. So Steve got the secret strength experiments. Again, guys, if you pick up the Garage Strength Program Design, you'll get 5 hours of a course that we present and go through every single factor that's in the book. The book is the textbook, okay? And then when you're doing that, you actually, about 2 days later, you're going to get the secret strength experiments, okay? Please, reviews are huge for us on the website. And tell us what you think about Secret Strength Experiments. Has a lot of crazy ideas in there, a lot of crazy stuff. Tonya, thank you. Boom. Tonya's busy. Keep it on. I'm trying. I go through those spells of sometimes I just get 20 pounds in 6 weeks. You must be growing like crazy. Tonya, I just get, there's sometimes I get super frustrated and flustered, irritated, and I've got to remember, I want to try and help as many people as I can. That's why we're doing these lives. We're going to try to do these lives every week. And we're even trying to come out with some branded apparel so that we can give away some of the lives inside, or we can give away some shirts inside of our videos, and then we would name the winner in the lives. I want to see what you guys thought about that. But we're going to try and do Coffee with Dane every single Tuesday. And then we're still going to do our private lives on Friday. Dominic, thank you for doing the Peak Strength app. I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of people inside, a lot of the influence from Peak Strength inside of the book. K. Camillo, boom, thank you for another one. I am a personal trainer manager. I always start my clients with barbell movement and then accessories, much like an athlete. Is this the most beneficial in your opinion? So yes, 100%. I think so if we're just trying to do personal training, okay, and what we call that inside of the book here, Camillo, so what we would do is inside the book, right here is what we call it, okay? So you got functional fitness. This is Kim Stanball. She got third at the CrossFit Games for Masters last year. Okay, so she trains with us here at Garage Strength. She's one of the most fit. She's 59 years old, 60 years old. She could do like 20 straight pull-ups. She's an absolute phenom. Okay, and what I would recommend is you could use the template that we have inside of Functional Fitness, and as you build out of that, what you want to do is with people who are training for functional stuff or for just general health, try to do the most complex movement first, and then what we recommend with someone like Kim is we'll do like a complex movement, a strength movement, and then mobility, or a complex movement, a strength movement, and then hypertrophy. Okay, so it's pretty similar to how we have this laid out here, but we just don't push it as much. Some of the exercises we won't push as much. I've got 2 kids in sports. Does the app allow multiple users? So Mark, you would have to get, because the app is built off of individuals, you would put in, you've got to get two profiles. I don't know if we have discounts on that yet. If you've got 2 people in it, we're eventually going to have team aspects in there. But you would have to get 2 users because they want to put in their sport and where they're at in their training. Jordan, do we have to buy program design right now to get the strength experiment? Yes, you've got to buy the program this week. You got to get the 5-hour lecture and the book, and to get the secret strength experiments. That's going to be, the secret strength experiments was supposed to be a secret. I'm sure when I get off of this live stream, Trevor, who's on the other side, is going to yell at me for talking about that. But yeah, where's Keist? Keist, still need to watch all of the courses and forgot to ask for the GS team to sign the book. Send us an email, Keist. We'll get it done. Robert Nay, thank you. Boom. Thanks for everything. Looking forward to hearing your answer to my question on your podcast. Still tuned in as I feed my baby. Absolutely. Okay, Robert, do you remember what your question was? I could actually go through this pile. I want to see when we were writing last night. This is from Michael. So we were signing last night, signing the books. I did a bad job with my handwriting on some of these where I just we have a whole stack right next to me. I want to see if I signed Robert's in here. I'll look. Suckdeep, I'm pretty sure I signed yours. But yeah, if you let me know, Robert, what your question was, I'll even answer you here. Kyle Stringer, What's up, Kyle? It's been a long time. Weren't you left-handed? You just got your first college throws coaching job. Heck yeah! And I remember you DMing me and you'd send me images of your workouts. You bought some workouts. That's the whole goal here. Everybody is, Kyle just joined in here. He hit me up on Ghostface D Miller on Instagram. Ghostface D Miller. Does anybody know who this rapper is on my shirt, by the way? But Kyle, this is what it's all about. Is like, we got Kyle. I'm pretty sure you all American at the NAIA level, if I recall correctly. I could be wrong, but I remember you were trying to hit that in the discus. And the whole goal is that Whoop is fine. Whoop's perfectly fine. The whole goal is that we create this system, and Kyle was in the training system. But then Kyle's going to train other people, and then he trains people on the parabolic periodization model. Okay, if we do that, we create more freaks, and we just got this huge ecosystem of success. That's the main goal. So Kyle, thanks for dropping in. I love it. I love seeing old athletes come back. One spot away from All-American. That's a heartbreaker, but that's something, Kyle, that you got to take with you, is that you didn't get that, right? But you'll make sure that other athletes get to that point. I think that's the best part about coaching. Dane, thanks for this Q&A. How can I improve my clean? Feels like I'm stuck right now. Enzo, great job, Kyle. Enzo, what I would do is focus on what's your back squat and what's your front squat, all while improving your technique. Go 4 to 6 weeks or 4 to 8 weeks, focusing entirely on increasing your strength. And then as you increase your strength, you can focus on your technique building. And, we've got a Improve Your Clean program on Garage Strength. You can pick that up. I think it's like $40. But that's a program that will help. It mainly will come back to strength and a technical issue. Jason, do you remember Robert Nay's question for the podcast?
It was related to military.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so Robert, what we discussed based off of your military question was I would do a lot of front squats. Once a week, I'd do long duration assault bike work or go for jogs, 140 beats per minute, something like that. Once a week, I'd do high intensity interval work for about 20 minutes, but really 3 to 4 days, focus on cleans, front squats, long duration lunges, doing a ton of pull-ups. So you would still have a workout split that you would do leg day, leg power day, upper body power day. Then you could have an athlete day, and then you do impulse day. So you train 4 days, and then on one of those days, you could add in some of the endurance work, let's say before impulse workout. And then one of those days you do another long endurance work. So you go for an hour run or something along those lines. But the on the upper body power day, focusing on pull-ups, rope climbs, sled pulls with the upper body, that's a great way to train for combat training. Zafir, in your app, when you put weight, are you including the weight of the bar? 100%. That's all factored in. Marcus is trying to incorporate Olympic lift variations like power cleans, but I only have a cheap bar with no sleeves. Can I still do them? As long as you can still do them as long as you can do it safely. I would recommend that. You could do dumbbell snatches if you don't have access to that or kettlebell snatches as well. Prashant, you want some arm wrestling videos? We could do that over on Peak Strength. What muscle groups are most beneficial to train for wrestling? This is from Gotcha Racing. Yeah, I would get a new rope that's 2 inches thick, Robert. That would be ideal. Gotcha Racing, lats, pecs, biceps, forearms, and trunk work. A lot of front squats. Thank you, Robert, for being a great member of the community, a freak. Thanks for being a freak here in Garage Strength. How do you manage strength training, avoiding overtraining energy for a 15-year-old soccer player who plays and practices about 3 days a week year-round? That's pretty easy. On those days, you could have, on the practice day, you can do, like an athlete day, okay? And then you can do 2 other lifting days. You could add in a hypertrophy day on one of those days. That's pretty easy. I think you could still lift 4 days a week and still get the 3 good practices in. Just signed up for the app. You're the man. Thank you, Skrilla Jerry. This is the closest I've felt to being in the locker room again since college. Appreciate you, bro. Yeah, Robert, that's great. Yeah, that's great, Robert. So, Skrilla, thanks for joining the app. Maybe we should call Coffee with Coach Dane, Coffee in the Locker Room. Although somebody will put some sexual epithets in there, I'm sure. Best program setup for soccer is going to be, again, I would recommend getting in here, field strength, or in one of the endurance programs. One of the endurance programs that's in here in garage strength program design, page 160 is where you're going to see how to lay out that endurance program. That's going to be the best option for you guys there. And Zafir wants to join the Discord. I think you just go to Discord. I think Jason's going to have to comment on that for sure. So what do you guys think? How do you guys think about this? I think the major underlying factor here is I'm trying to help you guys with that program design. I'm trying to get you to understand how to comprehend strength characteristics in sports, and then set everything up the way that you need to. And then at the same time, if you don't want to do it, we've got Peak Strength available. We want to keep putting out great content on the YouTube channel. We also have Peak Strength, so that's where we get a little bit more nitty gritty. And then we've got our Masters of Sport podcast. So we're really trying to hit all different avenues to provide those specific problems that you guys have as a coach, as a self-taught athlete. And I think it all starts, really, it's going to start with this garage strength program design to give you that really, really good theory and application. There's a lot of theory in the front side, and then the back side of the book is all application. That's going to make it a lot easier. We do use kettlebells in our workouts here at Garage Strength. We do them, but we have not done a lot of content on it. So maybe that's something that we could do, like kettlebell workout for athletes. What do you think about that, Jason, for a video idea? Yeah, so I think, even a kettlebell workout for wrestlers, I feel like would kill it. Sharky, thank you. Boom. Thanks, guys. And what are your thoughts on if we do it every Tuesday, Dane in the locker room? Maybe that's what we could do it, but something along Coach Dane in the locker room. I hate being called Coach Dane. I just like Dane, but whatever. We want to start giving out in our weekly videos a T-shirt or something. So if you get a T-shirt, or if you comment on the video and you subscribe to the channel, you get a T-shirt. But then we will announce the winner in here. That's something that we're going to do in the future. So, Coach Dane, I will wait for your video on arm wrestling. May you consider it soon for sure. J Backpack, best program I work out with my undersized 11-year-old son, football. I would just get Peak Strength and put in all beginner for a football player. The beginner in Peak Strength. So you can get Peak Strength at peakstrength.app. You can also get it at the Apple iOS store or the Google Play store. Just type in beginner, and that's going to be the best one for a new lifter, a new football player, a young one. Robert, yes, that's great. I'm glad you enjoyed that. That makes me happy. Okay, so I'm going to head out here. I got the throwers coming in. Sharky, thanks for that $5 super chat. The Samoan Island Curl. Yes, kettlebells, please. Is there a strength standard for hip flexors? Yes, there's a strength standard. This is from Tim McAvoy. I think single leg squats is probably the best way to establish that strength standard because you've got to be so focused on stability. Derek Castellanos, training after retirement from competition and weightlifting. Just get into bodybuilding for a while and then just feel where you're going. Does doing isometrics in the ocean against waves have any good resistance benefits? Probably. I would think so. It's sort of like playing with a hydro weight. Yeah. I play rugby and also recently started BJJ. Train 4 days a week with lower, upper, full body, and athlete day. How can I strengthen my neck? And so all the way from Scotland, Glenn Little, what I would do is actually isolation work. And I even like doing something like neck rolls or neck harness while you're doing a dip or a back extension or even to a point glute ham work. I even think, Jason, we should make a short out of that neck video when I broke the neck harness. We should make a short out of that. I want to share that with you guys. One time I was doing neck work, doing a dip, I think, and as I picked up the weight, I think it was like a 100-pounder, I broke the neck harness. The topic for Friday is going to be the true peak. All about the realization phase in Friday's private live. So if you guys want to join the channel, it's $10 a month if you want to do private lives where it's a select group of people that are in and they're asking questions. And so, Steve, we're going to go into the realization phase, and how we set up peaking athletes, how we set up peaking South Dakota State for Big 12s and to go into the NCAA tournament, how we're setting up Haley's peak because she's got Pan Ams at the end of the month. So, Josh Sarachin coming in, one of our best discus throwers, one of the best discus throwers in the entire world. Can you still bench 405 now weighing 219? I think so, Josh. And Josh is trolling me. He just posted a video. I shared it on Instagram, benching 315 for an easy 12. Josh, thanks for tuning in. All right, guys, I will see you on the next. What was Sharky's comment?
What things should you keep in mind for someone that wants to do power building, but instead of squat, bench, and deadlift, they focus more on Olympic lifts?
Okay, Sharky's asking, how do you focus on power building instead of squat, bench, and dead? What I would do, I'd still squat, high bar. I'd still bench press. I'd do more push presses. I wouldn't deadlift. I'd do clean pulls or snatch pulls to replace the deadlift. So basically, we're doing Oli building, right? Like O lifting and bodybuilding. And you could still do, isolation movements for biceps, triceps. But really, the main focus would be try to do a technical coordination movement like a snatch. And then you could do, if you're on a leg day, you could do back squat, high bar back squat. Why is Yaime calling me? Yaime's calling me. Sorry, guys. So I got to get going. But then on an upper body day, you could do like a push press or a power jerk or a split jerk and then do some of the bench press if you're really focusing on that bodybuilding. That's how I would set that up. Sharky, I hope that helps. And then do a lot of bodybuilding work based around lats, shoulders, rhomboids. Okay? All right. I would go slower on the miracle grows. Just go slower, and that's going to start to open up. It'll just go a little bit slower. And make sure you're bending, okay? Maybe roll it out, too, beforehand. I would roll it out. That should help. Yaime is calling again. All right, I got to go. Peace. I know. I know. Me. You signed Darrell's too? Yeah, I did. I signed Darrell's. Hey! Why don't she can just stay here until the heavy one? They're not going over there. No one in the sand on it.
Hey, you didn't end the stream.
Uno, siete. Hi. You want me to end it?
Wait, Dane, you done?
Bye. It's okay, Jason. It's gonna be okay.